And I have the great honor of being joined by absolute legend, true guitar hero, Mr. Brian May joins us today. Brian, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Alan. That's a very nice introduction. I will try and live up to it.
I think, like it or not, this is what you're burdened with. So,
Cool.
We're here because you have announced and in a couple of weeks have this deluxe reissue of the Another World album that's coming out, 1998 album. But before we go into the specifics on that album, I'm curious for you, these kinds of projects, when you go back in the catalog, whether it's solo work or whether it's Queen work or whatever it is, what's that experience for you? I mean, this is from about 25 years ago. Do you remember every detail? Do you remember nothing and discover everything as you're going through? What is it when you dig back into this stuff?
Well, it's all of the above, really. Yeah, it's definitely a voyage of discovery, and it's very strange delving so deeply into your former self and all the kind of feelings I had in my head at that time. I guess I've discovered that I never grew up, because I still have all those kind of feelings that I had that went into this album, all those doubts and confusions and pain and whatever. I'm a lot older and one would think a lot wiser, but this album feels very fresh to me because it still expresses how I feel about a lot of the central things in life. So yeah, it's been fun. I love doing it, and it gives me a great feeling of completion, because those albums were pretty much lost in the mists of time. You couldn't get them on Spotify or YouTube or anything, and it's like my solo work didn't exist. So now polishing it all up and getting it all out and dusting it off, and it's been great, because now I can share them with a new generation and they're out there all shiny and perfected, and it makes me feel good. I can retire when it comes to that day and think, yeah, it's all out there and people can get to it and people can enjoy it.
I mean, do you in the off time, do you spend time, do you think about this stuff? Are they clear as distinct projects, or is there so much, you keep moving forward and you keep working, and it's always so striking, like you read Paul McCartney talk about, the Beatles years, and it's clear he doesn't know which song is on which album or which, it's just all sort of velocity and forward motion.
I know which Beatles songs are on which album.
Yeah, well, we all know, but he doesn't. But I wonder if that's true for lots of artists, that you keep moving ahead and there's more stuff and more things to go to, and when they're done, you're not the one thinking about, oh, this was this day, we did this thing, and then we did that thing. Or do you hang on to all that?
Well, you're right. It's all about looking forward, and I don't spend my time listening to Queen albums unless there's a particular reason. Yeah, I'm always looking forward and looking to do better things. And my life is incredibly, insanely filled with stuff, because I'm a book publisher now. I publish books on stereoscopic matters and 3D. I'm an astrophysicist, so I do a lot of stuff with various NASA and ESA groups. Keeps me incredibly busy. I'm an animal activist. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. So there ain't much time off. And it's a luxury that I kind of carved out for myself to do these retrospective albums, because to me they're precious, and they say I'm proud of what they say. I'm proud of what's on them, and so for me to be able to button them up and put them out for a new generation is really important to me. It's felt like a corner I had to turn. It felt like a bunch of ends that I had to tie together and make good.
So this project, the Another World album, kind of started as one sort of idea and became something else. To walk through what the evolution of this album was.
Yeah, well, the first album was born of complete chaos and destruction of Queen as we knew it, because we lost Freddie, and I also lost my dad at that time. I also got divorced. So the first album, the Back to the Light album, which we've already reissued, dealt with all those matters. And then I went out on tour as Brian May and the Brian May Band, so I was moving forward as fast as I could. a little bit protesting too much. I think, I was refusing to acknowledge the fact that Queen existed, really. Right. But it was fun, and it fulfilled a need in me, I think. Coming back to make the second album, I had this thing in my head that I wanted to pay tribute to the people who influenced me and got me where I was. So I started off with Buddy Holly and Jimi Hendrix and Mott the Hoople, certain people who were very, very dear to me and very important in my growth. So that was my starting off point. But what happened was, so I did a few covers which you will find on the album, some of them anyway, not all of them made it on. What happened was, though, I got given jobs, and I love to be given challenges. So I was given, for instance, this job to make music for a TV series called Frank Stubbs Promotes, which I'm absolutely sure you've never heard of, but it gave me a chance to invest my emotions in a story of somebody else. Now that's a very kind of liberating thing. I was able to put my insecurities, my hopes and dreams and my feelings of failure and my feelings of optimism laced with despair, I was able to project them on a character, this character Frank Stubbs in the TV series, and it just brought all kinds of great stuff out in me. So the business is all about that, and I see myself in this character, eternally trying to be optimistic, eternally actually not quite getting where I want to be, and eternally coming back to try again, climb that wall again. And On My Way Up is a similar thing. So lots of optimism in these tracks, but you hear, reading between the lines, that the optimism is born of this fight against negativity. So really I'm sort of treading that path the whole time, looking for the optimism, looking for the bright sparks, looking for the sunbeams.
And I was you mentioned the TV work, and I think there's music that started as sort of a video game assignment.
That's right.
On here, right? Yeah. So you like that kind of working to assignment like that?
I do. I find it very inspiring to be given a task. Yeah, the Cyborg track came from a video game, and I had great fun doing it. Taylor Hawkins, in his early days with the Foos, played for me on that track. A magnificent bit of drumming, and he's so much in my mind at the moment. It's just impossible to imagine talking about Taylor in the past tense. I can't do it yet. I feel like he's still with us, and one of the greatest drummers ever, of course, but also the most amazingly energetic, beautiful guy you could imagine.
Well, I was going to come back. I was going to obviously come back to ask about Taylor later, but you mentioned, it's striking. He had just joined the Foo Fighters when you had him on this track. Like, this is 1990. Maybe, I don't know if you recorded in 98 or 97. I think he joined the band in 97. How did you initially, how did you guys, that early on when he wasn't yet, quite so well known, how did you connect, and where did that start?
Well, we kind of instantly bonded because they were enormous Queen fans. Taylor and Pat Smear were the most informed Queen fans in the world, just about, and they knew more about us than we did. They presented us with an award, I think the year before that, and we were just shocked to find out how much they felt about us. And actually, Taylor has been the best publicist for Queen ever, because he's been so good for our image, because he kind of regarded us as cool, whereas a lot of people at that time didn't. So Taylor we met when he was drumming for Alanis in London at an outdoor place, and instantly bonded, as I say. And of course Taylor became very close to Roger, and Roger's son Rufus, who very much follows in Taylor's footsteps, and he's a wonderful drummer. So Taylor was very close to us, and he's been in my studio a few times. And in my life, I talk to him often. I talked to him just a week ago from when we lost him, talking about stuff, talking about Dave, talking about what it's like, and Taylor's joys and frustrations and whatever, all that stuff of being in Foo Fighters. Yeah, but I saw the Foo Fighters grow from those very early small gigs, like in the... did we see them? Brixton Academy, I think I saw them first, and they were wonderful. It was just so full of exuberance and youthful energy and like gay abandon. No, gay isn't probably the right word in the old sense of gay.
Right.
But they were a joy from the beginning, and Taylor was like family to us. He really was, and I'm so happy that he's on this album. It's pure coincidence that he just happens to be on this track as I'm putting this album out. But I've already dedicated this album to Cozy, who I lost during the making of this album. Cozy was also one of the greatest drummers ever in the world. I'm so fortunate to have worked with these wonderful people, but there's so much sadness from that as well. It's a bittersweet thing to be putting this stuff out and enjoying it as if it's new, but at the same time knowing that Cozy's no longer here to enjoy it, and now Taylor isn't here to enjoy it anymore. I feel I feel very tangled up with this stuff at the moment. It seems very close to me.
I believe it. I mean, I was going to say, it's, I don't know if it's ironic or just tragic that this album already was so bound up in the loss of a drummer, of Cozy Powell, lost in the midst of the sessions, and now adding the Taylor chapter to that as well. It's complicated stuff.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm finding it hard to get through. And Taylor, of course, wasn't even my generation. I think of him as a boy, same as I thought of George Michael as a boy. And to lose them, it seems all wrong. It's hard to compute. It's almost, I can't even put it into words. It's just seems so, makes you feel frustrated. It makes you feel like you want to negotiate with death. You know what I'm saying? You feel like if you looked at it enough and you talk about it enough and you analyse it enough, maybe you could bring him back. But of course, that's not the way the world works. So it's tough, yeah.
And then additionally, you tell me, but additionally, you went into this project kind of coming off of the Made in Heaven sessions, which I imagine was also a wildly emotional thing to complete those tracks. I mean, did that inform sort of where this went?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd spent nights and days for months working with Freddie's voice for the Made in Heaven album. It was a labour of love. But yeah, it kind of took a toll, and it shapes you. It makes you feel different about life and yourself and everything. Not easy stuff.
And so going back and looking at how you said there's still the piece of the rock and roll covers that are on here, and then some additionally on the bonus disc and stuff that had come out with the EP and everything else. So there's that, and there's these again, that sort of TV video game assignments. There's the ballads. There's stuff that's hard rock on here. When you look at that, what do you hear? Just what's happening in your playing at this time? Obviously, when it's finishing Made in Heaven and really sort of putting the final cap on on the Queen work. What's happening? What do you hear even just within the guitar work on this record? What all is sort of fighting to the surface?
Well, it's a kind of multi-dimensional thing, because I'm trying to do everything at once. I'm trying to be the singer and be the guitar player, be the writer, be the producer, and I had to do it for my own sort of edification, I guess. And it led me to it led me to going out on tour again around the world as the front man singing. But by the time I got to the end of that, even though I'd had a great time, I felt like that's not where I wanted to be. So it led me back to wanting to be a guitar player and to work with great singers. And that I find the most liberating of all now. I've been lucky enough to work with some of the world's greatest singers, and that's where I'm happiest, I think. I love to sing. It feels good to sing, but really, on my gravestone, if they were putting all the details, they'd have to say that the guitar was my voice. That's really where it's at. Yeah, I do love to sing, but singing on tour is tough, and I didn't want to sing and play at the same time, really. I mean, Jimi Hendrix managed it, but for me, I found that it took away from my freedom as a guitar player, and I love having it back. I've loved being out on the road, firstly with Paul Rodgers, secondly with Adam now, who of course can take on anything that Queen ever did without ever being an imitator. So I'm very happy being up there as Queen and Adam Lambert, and having that pivot in Adam, knowing that he's got that bass covered and I can play guitar. It's joy. so all this. See, a lot of people ask me why I didn't make any more solo albums, and that's part of the reason, really. Also, I got very involved with a lady singer called Kerry Ellis, who's remarkable, and I enjoyed writing and producing her. Again, there was this feeling of let somebody else do the vocals and be the producer, be the guy who puts it all together, and be the guitar player. But I didn't have to supply the vocals. Somebody else was able to do that.
When you've got to fill out the line on the passport or the whatever it is, it's going to be guitarist that you write in that line. That's what
most probably an animal activist, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, and a man who fought for wild animals. I would like to be remembered as
a noble addition to the line. So this is an absurd question that I know there's no answer for, but obviously we've continued to see wave after wave of interest in Queen, of new generations, of new audiences. In the moments when you think about it, what do you think it is? What is the magic that has that continues to transcend time and space for this band and this work?
Yeah, it's the hardest question to answer. Yeah. I don't really know the answer. I can guess. I think it has a lot to do with the inner dynamics of the band. We were four very precocious young boys, all trying to put our imprint on the paintings that we were creating in the studio with four brushes. And the competition was intense. Also, the collaboration was intense. And that kind of insane belief that we had something that no one else had ever had before. There was that glue and that sort of spirit of Queen reaching for somewhere which had been inaccessible until that moment. So I think that's the stuff that fuels us. The stuff that fueled what is the best about Queen music is also the stuff which nearly blew it apart, because it was hard to harness all those different points of view and different ways of seeing things and keep it all together. Freddie, I have to say, Freddie tends to have the image of being someone who's like a diva and won't compromise, but actually Freddie was a wonderful force of cohesion. And he was always, if he was questioned in interviews about being the leader of the band, he would always say, no, I'm not the leader, I'm the lead singer, but we're a democracy. And it was absolutely true. So very often Roger and John would be pulling in opposite directions. Roger and myself, always in opposite directions. Freddie would be able to find the sort of glue to make it still hang together. So I think we all owe Freddie a lot because of that, the catalyst that he was. Apart from being a great creator in his own right, he was part of the essential glue that made this this very kind of rocky organisation manage to keep creating.
Yeah, I don't think just that you guys owe him a lot. I think all the rest of us do as well. But did the incredible response, obviously the triumph of the Bohemian Rhapsody film, A, was that anything that you could have imagined, anything that you saw coming, and B, did that open up other possibilities, other things to think about that are out there to do with Queen and the music? When the scale of response was as enormous as that, does that open up other thoughts in your head about, well, maybe there's other places to go?
Well, the second part first, yes, there's always other places to go, and we're always talking. The first part of the question, no. We had no idea it would become a $1 billion movie. It's incredible. We were anxious to get it right. We weren't anxious for commercial success because we didn't need it. We wanted the story to be told truthfully and entertainingly, because Freddie never wanted to be boring And we wanted not to overblow Freddie so that it would be not believable, and also not to underplay him. So we spent 12 years putting that team together, which made the film. We didn't physically make the film ourselves, of course not, but we were the kind of the people with Roger and myself and Graham King and Jim Beach, our manager, had our hands on that tiller all the way through to try to make sure that Freddie was properly represented, that the film was worthy of the talent that he was. We got a lot of stick for not going in other directions from various people who came and went, but we had a very clear idea in our heads all along that we wanted Freddie to be seen as the man dedicated to music that he was. He was passionate about his music above all else, and apart from being a very interesting human being, that's what we wanted to get across: his passion for the music, his love for the music, the way he lived in his music. And I think the film did that. And it's thanks to the team, it's thanks to the wonderful actors who took on the roles. Oh my God, what a great job they did. They became us. Rami and Gwil and those guys were in the studio being us, and eventually they were improvising, and some of that improvisation got used because they became so enveloped in our personalities that they did it. So we just stepped back and watched it happen, and we had to right the ship occasionally, because the ship actually did come close to sinking a few times during the making of the movie. But really, the experience of it happening was amazing, and I don't think it could ever be repeated. Nevertheless, there are other things we could look at, and we are looking at them. Yeah.
I mean, these are, I guess it's sort of the obvious questions, but looking around right now at these touring exhibits or immersive experiences, or, you know, a lot of these things that people are experimenting with right now, are those, you know, the kinds of things that that you look at and think about, you know, as possibilities? Yeah.
Yes, we're aware, and we keep in touch with all the latest technical developments. To me, it's fascinating, although I feel less and less able to keep abreast of it all in detail. But yes, we're looking at all those kind of media things, and it's amazing how the world is changing. I think we spoke before you ran the tape, saying, you know, the world is in an extraordinarily unimaginably awful state, really, but there is such great stuff happening alongside that in terms of progress. Some of it, I think you have to be careful that progress doesn't smash the best things of the past, but we're very old school, so that's kind of a priority with us. No matter what area we go into or what media, we would always bring our values into it.
And I have to ask, you know, new music. It seemed like there was maybe, you know, progress down the road toward Queen and Adam music, and then it seemed like that's, you know, of less interest. Right now, for you, where does that sit?
Oh, making new music? Well, it just hasn't happened. You know, I can't really put my finger on anything except we haven't had the time, which is honestly true. We're all very busy in our own lives. Adam has a career outside Queen, of course. Roger, like myself, has a number of interests which he follows. So we're looking at getting back on the road as Queen and Adam Lambert, and that's a big undertaking. So to do new music together as well as that would be pretty difficult, and still have the lives that we have. I do a lot of I'm involved in so much stuff, which is the stuff of dreams. I'm so happy that I can be involved in astrophysics in an active way, in stereoscopy in a very active way, and I can be an activist as regards animals, which is very important to me now. I'm also a parent of 3 children. I'm a grandparent of 7 children. So life is pretty demanding, I got to say, and I'm not complaining about that at all. But getting in the studio to make a new album with Adam, all I can say is I don't think we've had the time. You know, it could happen, but at the moment, probably, well, not for a while yet.
For you musically, creatively, something like this, something like the Another World project, I mean, do you feel like it's good for you to sort of get out of Queen world for a moment when you're thinking about music? Is that, does it clean the palette, clear the slate a bit, or sort of let you go someplace else by looking at this work?
Yeah, I'm feeling it's a very cleansing experience to go back and look at all the demons that I faced at that time, polish it all up, make it all nice and accessible. It feels extraordinarily good to me to see these, particularly these first two albums, sorted out and made into the modern media, available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, whatever, making new videos for them. To me, it ties up those ends and it makes me feel more whole as a person in some strange way. I love being able to, I'm very old school, I love being able to touch that CD when it comes. I love the box set, I can open it up and I can see the poster, I can see all the CDs, the vinyl, I love the coloured vinyl. There's a cassette version of this, which is an outrageous colour. I just love it. It's like, I suppose I never quite grew up. I just loved creating this stuff, which I will see go around the world, and I'll see people opening these packages and enjoying it. It makes me very happy.
Well, and we love the unboxing videos, and watching you open these packages has been a fun piece of it as well. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm going to do that next week with this one.
Yes.
I'm glad you like that.
Yes, and so these have been these. First, I mean, I guess from the first one, these were presented as this Gold Series project. So is the notion that you'll continue working through the rest of the Brian work? And is there other stuff that's, does that lead to other archival stuff or other stuff that didn't come out? Like, what's still do you see moving forward through, whatever that Gold Series stands for?
Yeah, the Gold Series I have sketched in my head quite a long way ahead. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It's surprising. I've collaborated with so many people over the years. It seems like I never stopped. It's like I collaborated with somebody new every week. So there's a lot of that stuff. There's the Starfleet album, which is a collaboration with Ed Van Halen, another brother who's sadly missed. So I'd like to sort out the Starfleet album. Not many people have heard that relatively, compared to the people who've heard We Will Rock You. Not many people have heard
compared to the people who've heard Queen albums and Van Halen albums. I'd say it's a small slice. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm happy to do that. I also have a soundtrack album for a film called Furia, which I would like to get out there, which I'm pretty proud of. There's some stuff which really no one's ever heard. Like I did a soundtrack for a theatre production of Macbeth. It's all there in the archives, and I could polish that up and put that out. But then there's this kind of sea, this ocean of collaborations, and I've appeared on so many other people's records. It would be nice to bring them back into my record now, and some of it's amazing stuff. I get so inspired by working with great people. I'm looking to put some of that out as the Gold Series as well. Can't wait.
Is that even say the Starfleet record? Is it contractually complicated to work through that stuff, and obviously the collaborations and all that, or do you have a pretty clear path for what?
No,
to
I
do
think
what
it's
you
okay.
want?
I think it's all buttoned up. I'm lucky we had Jim Beach as a manager, because he was very good at making sure everything was sewn up. So we would make sure that the people we worked with had the rights, but also that we had the rights to continue in the future. No, I don't think there's any real complication. I think I have all the permissions. I just need to do the work of compiling it and polishing it and mastering it and doing the artwork and everything. I love it.
There's a lot of moving parts. So you're working towards putting Queen and Adam back on the road. Is that like signed and sealed and you have plans, or are you still figuring out what that's going to be?
Yeah, it's all set. Yeah, we're resuming the tour, which was paused 2 years ago when COVID hit the world. So we're going back out into Europe and into the UK, all around the UK, and it's a pretty heavy tour. It's a couple of months, very full on, with a couple of extras thrown in, which I can't speak about yet. But there's a lot of stuff going, but it's all inked in. Yeah, we'll be in rehearsals middle of May, and we head out at the end of May. June and July we're in Europe and the UK.
How have you done with 2 years of lockdown? How has it been not being able to get out there?
Tough, very tough. Yeah, I think like everybody else, it's been a very strange experience. I did take to YouTube. No, not YouTube. I took to Instagram and started performing on Instagram and interacting. I loved it. I had a great time. I also got very sick, not just with COVID. I mean, I didn't get COVID until very recently, and it wasn't a major problem. But I got a major heart attack and some serious intestinal problems that followed it. And I was in very poor shape for a while, so I now take my fitness absolutely priority, and I do my heart rehab and my fitness program every day of the week, every week of the year. So I'm hoping and planning to be fit for this tour.
Yeah, well, glad that it's well enough that you can talk about a major tour in front of you. That would seem to indicate things are okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. It's all sold out. It's all been sold out for 2 years. People have held on to their tickets, which means such a lot. How incredible that some people couldn't even eat during that time, and yet they held on to their Queen tickets. It's a wonderful thing. So I want to make sure that we give everything that we can to those people who hung on to the idea of us playing to them again.
And before I let you out of here, I do just want to thank you for this recent posting of the Ukraine Queen show as the benefit. I guess we all do whatever small things we can do right now, but I'm glad that you guys thought to make the effort with that.
Yeah, it was. Once we thought of it, it was obvious, but it's been a nice thing to do. Yeah. It's crippling, isn't it? Just to think about it, the unnecessary suffering of those beautiful people, it absolutely kills me, I must say. And yeah, we all try and do our little bit, don't we?
And and obviously Queen has put in, being the band that you've been, you've put in your time in that part of the world and those audiences.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we played in Ukraine to wonderful audiences, and you see that on the live in Ukraine, of course. We did Kiev and Kharkov. We would have put both the concerts out, but the Adam one isn't mixed, unfortunately. It needs to be made into a product, which it isn't at the moment. So, but it was nice that the Paul Rodgers Kiev show was all ready to go, and we could just say, okay, put it out, and all the proceeds go to Ukraine.
Brian May, always an absolute pleasure. The Another World reissue package is out April 22nd, coming soon.
Yes.
And then, and I guess if you said you're starting up in May, then it's back fully in action from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll see you out there.
Yes. Thanks for the time, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Brian. All right.
Thanks. God bless.